So I will tell you a synchronicity story that happened to me, which is one of the strangest things I've heard of. I've heard many synchronicity stories. And it does lend itself to something like an explanation. And who knows if that's correct. But okay, so this is, it's the year 2000, and me and a couple of partners start a nonprofit called the Boundary Institute. And we're looking for a place to have the offices. And at the time, Silicon Valley was doing really well. It was before the dot-com crash. And so finding office space was very expensive. And so we look all over the place, and we finally find some place in Los Altos, which is an office complex which have doctors and dentists and accountants and those sort of professional things all clustered together in this one place. So we rent the place, and we notice at probably about the same day that we rented it, that our next door neighbor, everyone has a plaque on the outside of their place. It said SciQuest Labs, PSI Quest Labs, right next to us. So we thought, well, that's a curious thing. You know, we're thinking PSI in that case is Personnel Services Incorporated or something like that, because like we're the only nonprofit that especially new, and certainly in Silicon Valley, is doing psi research. We thought, well, okay, that seems like a nice coincidence. But there's nobody in there. The curtains were closed. There was no one in there, so we couldn't even introduce ourselves. So about a month goes by, and I'm living close enough so I can walk to work. So I walked to work a certain way and decided this day I'm going to walk a different way. I wanted to see what some of the other places were that were in this complex. So I walk a different way, and now I pass an office that said SciQuest Inc. So I'm thinking, oh, well, these must be part of the other people. There's no one in here either, so I don't know what it is. So I'm thinking, well, it's still a coincidence. We don't know what they are. So in the offices now, we have something like 4 or 5 rooms. My office is up against the wall, which is abutting the SciQuest Labs. And I put my whiteboard, it says like my whiteboard is over here and the SciQuest Labs on the other side. I have no idea what they do. And I'm drawing on the board what I want our lab to look like. So I want a certain shielded room, and I want a certain chair in it, and I want certain things in it. I'm drawing on the board and thinking about it a lot. And we don't have very much of anything else in the lab at this point because we're just new. So every day now I'm walking past SciQuest Labs and hoping there's somebody in there because I want to introduce ourselves and tell them about the joke of what we do. So finally I see somebody in there and knock on the door, and the person opens the door and I say, "Hi, my name is," and I thought he was going to have a heart attack because he opens the door, his mouth drops open, and before I can introduce myself, he said, "Dean Radin?" And now, of course, I'm confused because how could he know who I am? Because we have never met before. I don't recognize this guy. So the reason he looked so shocked is because he was actually back in the room somewhere back there, engaged in